I'm Nicole Murray, class of 2005 and president of the Law Alumni Association. It's my pleasure to welcome you to our 2020 Law Alumni Awards and special celebration honoring Bruce Miller. Now, before
Hey, Bruce, how you doing?
Hi. Before we begin, I'd like to ask you to please mute your mic during the program to let us control the audio quality. And choose speaker view instead of gallery view so you're seeing the active speaker. Throughout the event, we invite you to actively participate by asking questions during the question and answer with our honorees, and use the chat box to share messages to the honorees and other guests. We will also keep the Zoom open after this evening's program for an informal post-event social. Stop by and say hello to friends, offer congratulations to our awards recipients, or share retirement well wishes to Professor Miller. As with so many aspects of our lives, this event looks a bit different this year due to the pandemic. Our alumni awards ceremony normally takes place at a large reception during homecoming weekend. Bruce Miller's retirement celebration was originally planned for April of this year, but it had to be canceled. We appreciate your participation in our virtual celebration tonight, and we are thrilled to have more than 150 alumni, faculty, staff, and friends with us this evening. Thank you all for joining us as we honor outstanding members of the alumni community for their professional achievements and contributions to the legal profession. We will recognize 3 alumni award recipients this evening and pay special tribute to Professor Emeritus Bruce Miller, who retired in 2020 after 4 years at the School of Law. I would also like to recognize our sponsors for this evening's event. Thank you to the law offices of Sassoon, Turnbull, Ryan, and Hoos, and Bill Newman and Dale Melcher for their generous support of our program. I'm now pleased to introduce Dr. Robert E. Johnson, Western New England University's 6th president. Dr. Johnson's unyielding belief in higher education as a public good and as a path for transforming individual lives has led him to dedicate his 30-year career to preparing students to adapt and succeed in a dynamic future. Dr. Johnson is known as a transformational leader, elevating institutional structure and driving enrollment growth in each of his prior institutions. Thank you, President Johnson, for joining us this evening.
Well, thank you so much, Nicole, and welcome everyone to this great event. It is an exciting time. I know we are in the midst of a global pandemic, but the fact that we have the technology and ability to do this and come together in the midst of all of this chaos is absolutely phenomenal. And I want to thank everyone who worked to pull this together. I want to congratulate our recipients this evening. I think it is noble and honorable to congratulate them for the great work that they have done, for the achievements in their lives, and for the contributions that they have made. Elena, Gervino, Talia, G, and the Honorable Barbara Hyland. All of them are the best of what Western New England has to offer in terms of our alumni. And we're here to honor them today. I also want to congratulate Professor Emeritus Bruce Miller on his retirement, who has served a very, very, very long time here at Western New England. And I imagine that many of the individuals who are joining us today for this program were taught by him at one time or another. So congratulations to him and his family for a job well done and for serving this university over the years. As I think about all of our honorees, when it comes to education and what you have done in terms of coming through Western New England University, you have gone out and you have contributed to the world to leave it better than the way you found it. I'm reminded by Plato in his thoughts about education. Plato thought that education, or he espoused that education was a means to achieve justice, both individual justice and social justice. As he talked about individual justice, he said individual justice is obtained through excellence. And for Plato, excellence was virtue. And when we think about excellence and we think about our honorees today, we think about them coming through an excellent school of law that is second to none as far as I'm concerned, the Western New England School of Law that educated each and every one of you. You know, some may say often imitated, but never duplicated. The Western New England School of Law is part of our great institution, Western New England University, a national university. Let us be reminded what that means to be a national university. There are almost 4,000 colleges and universities in the country. And when you think about that, there are only 350 to 400 that achieve national university status, that makes us the best among the best. So Western New England University is on the move, and is on the move in so many different ways. Whether you know it or not, we rank number 5 in the country and number 1 in Massachusetts in job placement. We have over almost 8,000 alumni from our School of Law right here at Western New England University, representing 49 states and multiple countries. And the School of Law is doing its own thing in a very vibrant and good way. May it be our Center for Social Justice that's going out into the community and leaving the world better than the way they found it. Or if we talk about currently, we have over 150 sitting judges who are alums from Western New England School of Law. Or more importantly, I shouldn't say more importantly, or equally as important, when we think about that, the Princeton Review named Western New England's School of Law a best law school. Think about that. That is your alma mater. That is our institution where we're going to go out and educate the next generation of lawyers to go out and transform the world. Each and every one of you represent the best of what we have to offer. I'm honored to welcome you here today. And as we go forward, we're going to advance Western New England University, its School of Law, with a sense of humanity, civility, civil discourse, and mutual respect in all that we do. Together, we will leave the world better than the way we found it. I welcome you to this event. Congratulations again to our honorees and to our one retiree. Let's enjoy this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, President Johnson. It's now my privilege to introduce Dean Suda Sethi. Dean Sethi became Dean of the School of Law in 2018 and has served on the faculty since 2006. She's taught courses in constitutional law, law and terrorism, national security and government accountability, contracts, and business organizations. Dean Sethi has continually demonstrated how much she values alumni engagement and participation, and she's been a wonderful partner to the Law Alumni Association. Thank you, Dean Sethi, for being with us.
Thanks, Nicole. That was a very kind introduction. Good evening, everyone. I too am pleased to be able to welcome all of you to our 2020 Alumni Awards event, and also have the pleasure on the same evening of celebrating the work and legacy of our colleague Bruce Miller at the School of Law. And I want to thank everyone for being here. We can't come together in person, but it is terrific to see many old friends and some former students, and to meet some folks for the first time. I will admit to you, Nicole, that I'm not taking your admonition to just go into speaker view, because I like to see all the faces of the great colleagues and friends that we have on all the different pages of this Zoom call. And so I'm touched and I feel so warm to be with you this evening. This is the third time that I've had the honor of speaking to you at the Alumni Awards event in my capacity as Dean of the School of Law. And in 2018, I talked a bit about my transition into the role and leading the school that we all love. In 2019, I talked about the centennial of the university and how that marked also the centennial of legal education at Western New England and our vision for moving forward into our second century. And this year, as President Johnson alluded to, we're speaking together in the midst of a global pandemic, which has already taken the lives of too many people and affected the health and economy of everyone across the planet. We're in a moment of national and global discussion about racial justice and how institutions and individuals can make concrete changes in how we address racial inequality. And we're navigating an extremely polarized political environment in which a hotly contested presidential election is still at the forefront of our conversations. 2020, to say the least, has brought a lot of challenges. In my mind, these challenges have only reinforced the million ways in which what we do as lawyers and as legal educators is so fundamentally important. This is a time in which our Center for Social Justice, being led with much success by our new director, Ariel Clemmer, and its work in engaging with the community, supporting students who are seeking careers in social justice lawyering, supporting faculty who are doing cutting-edge work, and being an advocate for the many forms of justice needed in the greater Springfield community and well beyond that, that resonates strongly with the mission of the law school. This is also a time when we can reflect on the important ways in which the law school is growing, whether we think about the larger classes that we're seeing in recent years, or new faculty members whose scholarly work is amazing and influential. And here I want to acknowledge our two newest colleagues, Tim Webster, who joined our faculty in 2019 and who's a leading expert on comparative law that focuses on East Asia, and Jennifer Taub, who joined our faculty in just August of this year, and whose new book on white-collar crime, Big Dirty Money, focuses on the way that wealthy folks are disproportionately not subject to the same criminal justice system as the rest of us. This book has garnered significant national press in a moment in which our conversation has focused on and prioritized matters of economic justice. And of course, this is a time to celebrate lawyers and legal educators and the amazing work that they do. And that word amazing really is appropriate and can and should be used for the three alumni that we are honoring in the first part of tonight's program. I look at the biographies and the ongoing work of Elena Gervino, Talia G, and Judge Hyland, and I am indeed amazed at what they have done and what they continue to do. Your work embodies who we are as an institution and who we are committed to be in the future. You embody the principles that are central to the mission of the law school, educating lawyers who serve the current and future needs of society, and doing so with knowledge, competence, and compassion. Thank you for the work that you do, and thanks to all of you for coming together tonight to honor these wonderful folks. And now I get to begin our awards ceremony as well. And it falls to me, I think appropriately so, to present the Dean's Alumni Excellence Award. And this award is given each year at the discretion of the Dean to a graduate whose professional accomplishments bring credit to Western New England School of Law, and who has a record of service to the school, community, state, or nation, and whose work demonstrates the core values of the school. And our 2020 Dean's Alumni Excellence Award winner is Elena Gervino, class of 1988. Elena is a vice president. Yes, let's give her the silent applause over Zoom, or maybe noisy applause if people want to do that. Elena is a vice president at Travelers Insurance Company. She leads the National Subrogation Organization and the Legal Resource Strategy and Operations Organization as well. At various times through her career at Travelers, Elena was a managing counsel in the Commercial Lines Law Department and led the General Liability, Construction Defect, Product Liability, and Canadian Claim units. She began her career at Travelers in 1996 after working as a law clerk for the Honorable Alfred B. Cabello of the Connecticut Supreme Court, and then as a trial lawyer for Day Pitney and Bingham McCutcheon in Hartford. Elena graduated from the University of Rhode Island in 1982 with a BS in Education, and in 1988 she graduated cum laude from Western New England University School of Law, where she was a notes editor for the Law Review and published her note on tax law reform. She was named the Outstanding Woman Law Student and given that award at the School of Law in 1988. We don't have that award anymore, but I think it's a reflection of the groundbreaking work that you did even at the time, Elena. Outside of her work at Travelers, she is the chair of the board of directors for the Arbitration Forums Incorporated, an executive council member and fellow with the CLM School of Claims Mediation, is an American Arbitration Association certified arbitrator as well. She speaks regularly at national conferences on a variety of topics, including leadership, career and professional development, diversity, subrogation, and arbitration. In addition to her leadership duties for professional organizations, Elena has also served on the boards for nonprofit community organizations, including Nutmeg Big Brothers Big Sisters, Camp Horizons, which supports people with developmental delays, and True Colors, which works to ensure that the needs of LGBTQ minority youth are both recognized and met. And I want to acknowledge here that Elena has done this terrific work both in her job and in her larger community, but she's also given back to the School of Law community in important and frankly transformative ways. She not only serves currently on the Dean's Advisory Council, but she and her classmate Craig Rabb have endowed the Gervino Rabb LGBT Advocacy Scholarship, which provides financial support to students whose work reflects a dedication to LGBTQ+ rights. And along with her wife and their daughters, Elena and her family recently created the Gervino Ward LGBTQ+ Speaker Series, which works to draw awareness to emerging trends in LGBTQ rights law. Our inaugural speaker in this series this fall was Evan Wolfson, founder of Freedom to Marry, a man who's often described as the architect of the marriage equality movement. It was, for those of you who were there, and you know, a phenomenal event, and we appreciate Elena's and her family's generosity in making that possible. She and her family also funded the Gervino Ward LGBTQ+ annual summer stipend, which now supports law students whose work is involved in supporting and advocating for LGBTQ+ rights. On a personal note, I have known Elena for 2 years now and have been delighted to get to know her, not only for her work, but her dedication and drive, particularly in support of legal education and the opportunities for students who want to pursue a career dedicated to LGBTQ rights and the broader struggle for human rights. Thank you, Elena, and congratulations to you as the 2020 recipient of the Dean's Alumni Excellence Award.
Well, thank you, Suda. Thank you, Dean Setti. I really appreciate those very kind and generous remarks. And to be offered this award is truly humbling. In preparing for this, the organizers asked me to say a few words about what Western New England meant to me. And that was a pretty simple answer. Basically, Western New England changed my life. My education here and with the faculty, some of whom are still here, Art and Bruce and others are still here, which is lovely to see. And they inspired me. They inspired me to take seriously my responsibilities as a lawyer. They exercised my mind, as I think all educators do, and they provoked my conscience. And when they provoked me or encouraged me to take seriously my responsibilities as a lawyer, I gave a lot of thought to that. You know, someone once said that lawyers are the foot soldiers of the Constitution. Well, that sounds about accurate, although I hate to talk about Constitution with Bruce Miller on the call, the expert. But I think it's accurate. But I would also say that we're protectors of the Constitution and the rights of all individuals. And as such, we're obligated, I think, to continually pursue the aspirations set forth in that Constitution and to work to form a more perfect union. When most of us hear that phrase, I think we understand we're just not there yet. Has there been progress? Well, of course there's been progress, but there's still a very long way to go. And we're never going to achieve that dream until we feel that we belong and that justice works for and on behalf of all of us. So the first time I met Dean Setti, she described to me her vision to create a school of social justice. I was once again, 30 years later, inspired by Western New England School of Law faculty at the time she was the dean. And so when I came home that night, I was telling my family about the meeting, and we challenged ourselves to think about what could we do to help Western New England, a place that provided me the foundation for a very, very rewarding career. Believing that progress begins with education, it was only natural to reach back out to Dean Setti and ask how we could help support her vision. So together with the university, we are very pleased to play a small part in providing opportunities for students to study, for students to work and learn about social justice, and to provoke conversations. And that was what the speaker series was designed to do, was to provoke those conversations and have the students start a conversation with people who have more experience and maybe more perspective and maybe some guidance into the future. So we hope that our help will encourage students to begin their journey, to fulfill their obligation as lawyers and work to help form a more perfect union. So with that, I want to once again thank you, Dean Setti, Dr. Johnson. It was such a pleasure to spend time with you a few weeks ago. I want to thank you for this award. I humbly accept it. It was surprising, and I'm just truly honored to receive it, particularly from the two of you. So thank you very much.
Great. Thank you, Dean Setti, and congratulations, Elena. I am Tasha Marshall, class of 2016 and incoming president of the Law Alumni Association. I have the pleasure of presenting the Ascending Alumni Award this evening. The Ascending Alumni Award spotlights the achievements of law alumni who graduated within the last 10 years. Recipients of this award have shown leadership in their chosen field or in the community, and they stand out among their peers as they display a great deal of drive and potential. Our 2020 Ascending Alumni Award winner is Talia G, class of 2010. Talia G was born and raised in Springfield and attended East Longmeadow Schools through the METCO program. After graduating high school, Talia went on to study sports management at St. John's University in Queens, New York. While in New York, she worked for NBC Olympics and Sports and the New York Yankees. As a child, Talia fell in love with being a lawyer while watching the show Matlock with her grandfather. After college, Talia decided to pursue her passion and become a lawyer, returning home to Springfield to attend Western New England University School of Law. As a law student, Talia worked for the HIV/AIDS Law Consortium, a nonprofit law firm serving members of the HIV/AIDS community in Springfield. As a 2L, Talia entered the joint JD MBA program, receiving her JD in 2010 and her MBA in 2012. Talia passed the bar in Massachusetts, New York, and Connecticut. In January 2019, Talia was appointed Chief Diversity and Inclusion Officer for the City of Springfield by Mayor Dominic Sarno. In this newly created role, Talia has worked tirelessly on behalf of the community of more than 150,000 residents and more than 7,000 employees of the City of Springfield. Her work includes ensuring a fair and equitable hiring process for all applicants, regardless of race, disability, gender, sexual orientation, gender identity, religion, or any other factor other than merit and skill. Talia assists departments with recruitment efforts, sits in on interviews, investigates internal complaints, advocates for employment, fair treatment, and works with managers to increase diversity and inclusion. Talia also works on diversity and inclusion efforts for city residents, providing information on available resources, holding listening sessions, and organizing events to unify Springfield residents and government. Prior to this role, Talia worked as an attorney in the City of Springfield's Labor Relations Department. Other previous positions included Associate Attorney at Sullivan, Hayes & Quinn, Community Legal Aid in Central West Justice Center, an assistant clerk at the New Haven Superior Court. Talia has served on the board of directors of the Springfield Boys and Girls Club, the Caring Health Center, the Massachusetts Service Alliance, the WNE Law Alumni Association, and the Hampden County Bar Association. Talia also served as a member of CHD's Human Rights Committee. Talia is also the creator of How to Wear Your Crown, an annual summit for teen girls in the greater Springfield area where presenters focus on empowerment and encouragement. Talia has been recognized by the Massachusetts Bar Association with the Community Service Award. Talia also enjoys spending time with her family, reading, playing basketball when she could before COVID, and watching Wheel of Fortune. Talia is also my mentor, and I am so proud to be presenting this award to her. Talia became my mentor when I was a law student, when she was president of the Law Alumni Association, and she was the reason why I wanted to join the Law Alumni Association immediately after I graduated in 2016. And to this day, Talia is still my mentor, as Talia works for the city of Springfield and I work for the city of Holyoke. So I think I text or call Talia at least once a week to ask for advice or to vent. So I am so proud and so honored to be presenting this award today. So congratulations, Talia G., 2020 recipient of the Ascending Alumni Award.
Thank you so much, Tasha. Thank you so much for the kind words. And you're right. I think we do text at least once a week. And I appreciate our friendship and mentorship. So thank you so much. I first wanted to just start off by saying thank you to the Alumni Association for, I don't know who nominated me, but whoever did, thank you. I really appreciate it. And also for those who voted to think I was so deserving of this award. I can't tell you enough how honored I really am. I'm really overjoyed with, overwhelmed with joy right now. Western New England, as Tasha just read, I studied sports management, and when I came to law school, my intention was to become in-house counsel for a professional sports league or team or something of that nature. And I always had a passion for community service, and I never saw the intersection between the law and community service. But when I came to Western New England and I saw that all the things that the law school was involved in and all the things that our alumni were involved in, I instantly knew that while I love sports and nothing beats walking into an arena every day for work, however, my heart is really in community service and serving the people and social justice. And so I really thank God every day that I was able to have the opportunities to do those things throughout my law school career, as well as after graduating. And so Western New England College, especially the school of law, I didn't go to the undergrad, but especially the school of law, we are quite the community. The minute one of us knows that another one is in the room, we are supporting one another like no other. And I learned that very quickly when I was working at the New Haven Superior Court. I just so happened to be placed with Judge Robert Young, who, just got to talking to him, and he mentioned that he was a Western New England grad. And he really took me under his wing, and he really did a lot for developing my courtroom presence, developing me as an attorney. And he made me use all of those Civ Pro skills that Professor Wolf challenged me on in class. For anyone that has had me in class, I read. I always read. I show up to class prepared, but I don't like to talk in class. But Professor Wolf always asked me one question and then asked me another and then asked me 10 more. And so I appreciate it, because that was the first time that I really got comfortable speaking about the law. and was forced to speak about the law. So I'm thankful for Professor Wolf. I'm thankful for all of the professors that I had. I honestly did not have a bad professor. Just very thankful for the legal community and to be a part of this tribe. And before I forget, I want to say thank you to my family for showing up tonight. I've been playing tech support with my parents through text, and but my cousin's school committee woman, Latonia Naylor, Latoya Love, my family, I cannot do anything without their support. And so I just wanted to say thank you very much to them. They are the people who get neglected when I am busy running around. But I am so grateful for them. And last but not least, I will say thank you to Mayor Dominic Sarno for appointing me to this position and trusting me with such a very important role. Mayor Sarno has not said no to me yet, which is a dangerous place because I'm always asking for things here and there that seem to push the envelope in terms of diversity and inclusion. But the reality is his administration, myself, my coworkers, we're all committed to the work. And so if we're going to be committed to the work, then we've got to push the envelope and try to further the agendas of diversity and inclusion efforts. So I want to say thank you to him, to his administration, to Chief of Staff Tom Ash, TJ Plant, the CAFO, and to all my other coworkers, especially my two office mothers, Carolyn Jackson and Minnie Marrero. Thank you.
In your mouth.
Well, thank you, Talia. Thank you, Tasha, and congratulations to Talia and Elena. I am now pleased to present the Distinguished Alumni Award. The Distinguished Alumni Award is given to a member of the alumni community who has made significant contributions, not only to the legal profession, but to society as a whole. The recipient's contributions exemplify leadership, ethics, and integrity. In addition, the accomplishments of the recipient reflect positively on Western New England University School of Law. Our 2020 Distinguished Alumni Award winner is the Honorable Barbara Hyland, class of 1983. Judge Barbara Hyland was appointed an Associate Justice of the Massachusetts Probate and Family Court in January of 2011 by Governor Deval Patrick. Judge Hyland is assigned to the Western Massachusetts Circuit, currently sitting in the Hampden Division. As a circuit appointment, Judge Hyland has had the opportunity to sit on all 4 Western counties. The Chief Justice of the Probate and Family Court appointed Judge Hyland as First Justice of the Probate and Family Court, Hampden Division, in May of 2017, where she serves today. Prior to her appointment to the bench, she was a partner in the Holyoke Law Firm, with her practice concentrating in family law and civil litigation. She graduated cum laude from Westfield State University with a Bachelor of Science degree in education, and from Western New England College, now Western New England University, School of Law, with a Juris Doctorate. Judge Hyland serves as president of the Hampden County Bar Association, of which she has been a member over 30 years. She now serves as an ex officio board member. In 2013, Judge Hyland was appointed by Chief Justice Roderick L. Ireland to serve in the Supreme Judicial Court Advisory Committee on Massachusetts Evidence Law, which prepares the Massachusetts Guide to Evidence. Judge Hyland participates in many judicial committees and programs, including the Judicial Leadership Committee, J2J, the Judicial Mentoring Program, and the Poverty Planning Committee of the Trial Court. Judge Hyland also participates in legal education for lawyers and judges as a panelist and program organizer. Judge Hyland was a member of the adjunct faculty of Western New England University School of Law for over 25 years, teaching consumer law and managing the Consumer Protection Clinic. She was the co-chair of the Hampden Probate and Family Court Bench Bar Committee from 2007 to 2010. She has served as a board member for various nonprofit organizations, including the Children's Law Project, Hampden County Lawyers for Justice, Hoyle Community College Business Advisory Board, Weston Rehabilitation Center, and Abilities Unlimited. Judge Hyland was recognized with the Volunteer Lawyer Services Pro Bono Publico Award in 2009. While in practice, Judge Hyland was also an active participant with Senior Partners for Justice, Hampden County Arbitration and Mediation Program, and the Probate and Family Court Lawyer For the Day program. She is also a Massachusetts Bar Foundation Fellow. Congratulations, Justice Barbara Hyland, 2020 recipient for the Distinguished Alumni Award.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I just want to make sure everyone knows, I don't know if this is a correction or maybe I misheard it, but I'm not currently the president of the Bar Association. I am a past president, but I do see here today Toby Wilson, who's the current president of the Hampden County Bar Association. I very proudly served as a past president and am now an ex officio member. It's a true honor for me to be here today to accept this award. I'd like to congratulate the others who have also received awards tonight, just listening to their accomplishments. It's so impressive, and to know that we have something in common, being alum of this great institution. My own accomplishments are not attributed just to me. I was lucky to have a community behind me, parents who instilled in me a passion for public service. I had friends who encouraged me. I had a support system in my law partners and my colleagues, and not the least of which were the tools that were offered to me at Western New England when I went to law school there. And it was quite a while ago, but when I went to law school there, I was very lucky to have professors that were interested in their students and who guided them and gave them direction. There's a number of things I can say about my time at WNE. I began here as a part-time evening student, so it was 4 years of commitment. I was teaching 5th and 6th grade at the time in an inner city school in Holyoke, and it was a lot of hard work. But I met wonderful people at Western New England. I have friends that I still value today that I met at Western New England. Some I see on the screen, many that sent me lovely messages over the last few days when they saw this notice. You heard that I am a former adjunct professor at Western New England. I think I might hold the Western New England record for being the longest held position as an adjunct professor there. When I was lucky enough to graduate, I became involved in the Springfield Action Commission, which was the anti-poverty agency in Springfield. And I served for a number of years there as counsel. And that led me right back to WNE. And that's when I became an adjunct professor involved with the Consumer Protection Clinic and helping consumers that were vastly unrepresented and underrepresented in the Hampden County area. So it went full circle. A job led me right back to WNE. The one thing that should be mentioned about my time at WNE was the outstanding professors that I had and the wonderful staff that is at WNE. It was very supportive to me, and I can see from what has happened today and listening to the other speakers that it was supportive to them as well. I was lucky enough to be one of Bruce Miller's first students, probably, in one of his first classes in civil procedure. And I have a question tonight for Professor Miller, and I'm hoping that he will answer it publicly once and for all about which year was his favorite year. And I hope I'm right in saying it was mine. So I'm thinking that maybe when he gets his chance to speak, he'll confirm that. But best to you, Professor Miller. Congratulations on your retirement. It's a wonderful thing. So in conclusion, I have relied on the foundation that was offered to me at WNE, now WNU. It was a supportive community. It gave me the tools I needed to be successful in my career. As you heard, that I'm now First Justice in Hampden Division Probate and Family Court, which is in Springfield. So I will tell you, I haven't gone far. I'm still in Springfield, but I've come far. So, and that's in a great part due to the foundation that I received at WNE. So thank you very much for this award. I will cherish it truly. And congratulations to Professor Miller on his retirement. Thank you.
Congratulations to each of our award recipients. We're so proud of you, and we thank you for representing Western New England University School of Law so well. We'll now take some time for questions and answers with our honorees. If you'd like to ask a question, you may submit your questions with a message to the host through the chat box, or if you're comfortable to ask your question out loud, send a chat that you have a question and we'll call on you.
Anyone have questions for our honorees tonight? And feel free to unmute yourself and ask. To get us started, I would love to ask each of our honorees to speak about someone who was influential in your early career and how they impacted your trajectory.
I will start with that because it's somebody I did not mention, and I was and I should have. And for those of you who were here in those days, Kathy Jones was just an outstanding professor who was inspiring and really was the first person who inspired me to learn. And obviously she passed away much too early, but I know she had an impact on so many of us. And I think I failed to mention her as someone from Western New England who was the most impactful for me and for my career.
Thank you. Talia or Judge Hyland, would you like to answer?
Sure, I'll answer. I would say probably Professor Bridget Baldwin. As I mentioned, I wanted to become a lawyer because I used to watch Matlock with my grandfather, and that was literally the only representation of a lawyer I had ever seen. And I went to East Longmeadow Public Schools, and for those of you that are familiar with East Longmeadow, you know that it is predominantly a very white town. And Professor Baldwin was the first professor of color that I had ever had in my life. And actually, it has been the only professor of color that I had ever had in my life. So I was inspired by that. And then I was also inspired by just her love and passion for education. I think at that time she was working on her PhD. And I didn't even know what a PhD was. You know, I'd heard the letters, right? But I didn't know, like, why is anyone getting a PhD? And so I was just very inspired by her level of love and passion for education as a woman of color. I had never seen that before, and I'm still inspired by it.
Yeah, if I could say something about Elena Gervino's comment about Kathy Jones. Kathy was a really good friend of mine when she was here. So unfortunately, her life was shortened by disease. And I remember her very well for a number of things. And one of the things I remember about her is that she taught me how to give examinations. Because when you first come to law school, you're not really sure how to do it. And Kathy had this very unusual way and different way and effective way of giving examinations to the students she teaches. And to this day, I've used that method for the now 40 years I've been here. And it's been very effective with the students, and the students really appreciate how it's done. And she was very instrumental in and exploring with me the various ways that that exam could be used in a very effective way. And really, and to this day, every time I give an exam, I always credit Kathy and tell students who she was and what she did for this law school. And it's a wonderful opportunity for me to talk about her and the contributions she made in so many ways to the greatness of the school that we have here. So I want to thank Elena for remembering Kathy to us all. And maybe some of you have never had her, but she was really a terrific person. And so we thank Elena, and we thank Coach Kathy for all the great work she did. So I publicly want to say that, and I just got through saying it to my class the other day because exams are right around the corner. And so it's very nice that we're able to remember Kathy Jones so well, and what the contribution she made to the law school.
Thank you, Art.
Judge Hyland, would you like to share someone who was influential early in your career?
I'd actually like to say two things. One is relative, again, to my time at WNE. When I started, I was a night student, but and the school had been predominantly a night school. I think most people remember that. And we were either the first or second class that even had a day school that started in days and ended in days, would have been 3 years. But the faculty was very youthful and fun, as I remembered it. And I say that there's a number of faculty members on, Bruce Miller, Art Wolf, but Kathy Jones was there, and Dean Krantz. So there were a number of faculty members that were just fun. And, you know, it was the days when Thursday night beer blasts in the cafeteria and the faculty would come down. Those days are gone, long gone for the campus. But the faculty itself was very influential in developing all these young lawyers. The one person that stands out, which is an alum, but prior to when it was WNE, I think it was New England Law School, was a dear friend of mine, Judge Ann Gibbons, who was a district court judge in Holyoke. And she was a wonderful personality, and she made it a point to take new lawyers under her wing and to help them and guide them and encourage them. So I think the one person that stands out for me is Ann Gibbons, because she was just such a larger than life human being, and kind and special, and very promoting, particularly of women lawyers, when women lawyers weren't all that common. I think she might have been the only second female judge in Massachusetts, if I'm not mistaken. So that's my thought.
Thank you. Any other questions for our panelists tonight? Feel free to unmute yourself if you want to go ahead and ask one. While we await to see what else might come in, we talked a bit at the beginning about the different format of this event. It's normally a large in-person reception. Our current students are really facing unprecedented challenges, both in preparing for and taking the bar given the pandemic, and entering the workforce during a really challenging and tumultuous economy. I'm curious what advice you have for our 2021 class as they prepare to take this next step in the coming months.
Katie, was that addressed to us?
Yes, for each of you, any of you.
Okay. Well, you know, we have the same challenge at work. We have, unfortunately, many employees who started after March, and we've been virtual since March, and probably will be until the middle of 2021, and it's a huge challenge. And I think it's an incumbent, when I think of being an employer, I think it's an incumbent on me, and I would imagine that translates to the faculty. It's incumbent upon all of us to make sure we have as many face-to-face contacts as possible. You know, none of us are always thrilled about being on video, so we like just to do conference calls, but we make an effort to do a face-to-face. And And it also, when you do that, provides an opportunity to talk about someone. If their dog comes in, you know, the room, or there's kids in the background, it really gives you an opportunity to get to know people better. So my only suggestion for new students and anybody, professors or faculty or staff, is get as much face time as you can with them. That would be my advice.
Thank you. Other thoughts, advice for our 2021 law school graduates?
If I may, we've, at the probate court, we used to have externs who would come in to the probate court. We're not able to do that now because we have limited space and with the social distancing and all our other requirements. So, and we've considered this, it's very difficult to give the new grads or the people coming up some real life experience, especially in this pandemic. So we've tried to do other things and to have some Zoom interaction with students, but it's really very, very difficult. And I feel awful that, you know, this is what they're coming into, but the law is great. So I'm sure that they will rise to that challenge, just as we all have had to rise to other challenges. So good for that.
This is Dorothy, class of 95, Dorothy Varon, and I want to say hi to everybody I recognize and to everybody I don't. It's wonderful to see you all. Tina, you look exactly the same. That is not fair. But I just want to say to the graduates that Judge Spina used to say it all the time when he came to talk to us about pro bono work. You can do well and do good in this career. And so I want to say that to all who are graduating. Go out there and do well, but also remember to do good, because there are incredible opportunities to help in the community here and everywhere, and virtually also. So, you know, if you're looking for any kind of virtual experience, you can reach out to the Hampden County Bar, you can reach out to the Center for Social Justice and to the courts themselves. And there will be something that you can do virtually for sure. So congratulations, honorees. Professor Miller, I loved your classes and I loved seeing you through the years. Thank you for everything you did for me personally and for the law school.
Okay, well, thank you everybody for all of your questions and answers. Before we move on to the next section of our program, I would like the opportunity to officially introduce Tasha Marshall, whom you heard from a little bit earlier. Tasha is the incoming Law Alumni Association president, and her term will begin in a couple of weeks at our fall meeting. Now, Tasha graduated from Western New England University School of Law in 2016 and has been an active member in the Law Alumni Association since graduation. Prior to becoming president-elect, she served as chair of the Nominations and Elections Committee. Tasha is assistant city solicitor of the city of Holyoke, where her practice areas include litigation, real estate, and providing legal opinions to the mayor, city council, and city departments and boards. Previously, Tasha was a public defender with the Committee for the Public Counsel Services. In the upcoming year, Tasha will lead the Alumni Board in their efforts to bring value to law alumni in the School of Law and to increase alumni engagement through events, communications, volunteerism, and philanthropy. Thanks, Tasha.
Thanks, Nicole. I have enjoyed serving alongside you as president-elect, and I look forward to our continued collaboration in the upcoming year. I would like to thank you, Nicole, for your leadership through the past year, in a year of unprecedented challenges, what prompted us to be creative in how we connect with alumni. Under your leadership, the Alumni Association has continued to serve the interests of our more than 8,000 law alumni, including pivoting to our in-person events in a safe virtual format delivering a variety of engaging digital communications to help our alumni stay connected and informed, and recognizing alumni excellence through programs such as tonight's events. Thank you, Nicole, for your service to the Law Alumni Association and the School of Law. And thank you again, Nicole. It's been really great serving as president-elect and learning from you.
If I can unmute myself. Thank you, Tasha, and congratulations once again to all of our award recipients. At this time, we'll begin our special celebration of Professor Bruce Miller, who retired this year after 40 years of service to the School of Law. On behalf of the Law Alumni Association, congratulations, Professor Miller. The remainder of our program this evening will be led by the Honorable Charles Gross III, class of 1997. Judge Gross was appointed to the Springfield, Massachusetts District Court in 2012 by Governor Deval Patrick. Thank you, Judge Gross, for joining us this evening. We will hear from Judge Gross in a moment, but first we'd like to share a video tribute we put together to celebrate Professor Miller.
All right. I retired as a member of the faculty back in 2014 after working with Bruce and everybody else for over 30 years. And my favorite memory of Bruce, well, I don't really have one favorite memory because there are just too many. Bruce was my next door neighbor at the law school for most of the years I was there. And we probably talked at least once a day, if not more than once a day, throughout all those years. We talked about everything. We talked about law and teaching, of course, and I learned a great deal from Bruce about being a good teacher. I never reached his level, but I tried. But we talked about all kinds of bizarre things. We talked about religion, we talked about politics, and he made some terrible predictions along the way. We talked about philosophy, we talked about the Red Sox. We shared a passion and celebrated together in 2004 and 2007. And we talked a great deal about our families. Bruce and I first really got to know each other through our children at Mud Pie, the child care cooperative we both belonged to in the 80s, and it grew from there. So it's been a long, long friendship, and Bruce, I miss our conversations. I wish you all the best in retirement. I'm sure you'll be productive as you always have been and committed to all the good causes. And let's hope for the best in 2021.
Hey, Bruce, you have been an amazing colleague and an inspiration, and I'll miss you terribly. I have so many fond memories of running into you in the hallways, learning from you about progressive history, constitutional law, and so much more, and missing often the first minutes of my class because I got so absorbed in our discussion. You've done an amazing job training a generation of lawyers. Many thanks and all best wishes on this well-earned and so well-deserved retirement.
My name is Luke Ryan, and I had the good fortune to have Bruce Miller as a professor during the time I spent as a student at Western New England. My favorite Bruce Miller memories came in the spring of 2005 when I had a professional responsibility course with him. I recall having very strong opinions about the ways in which lawyers relied on so-called legal ethics to engage in what I considered to be objectively unethical behavior. I also recall having a number of classmates who had equally strong opinions to the contrary. Somehow, every time I showed up for class, Bruce would manage to facilitate these unbelievably great dialogues that forced us to hear each other, to clarify our positions, and to just have the kind of debates that law school really felt like it had been missing until I just had this great experience of a very talented and wonderful professor. Bruce, you're an inspiration to so many of us, and the gratitude that your students have is something that will endure for a very, very long time. I wish you the best in your retirement, and just thanks for being who you are.
My name is Emily Miller, and Bruce Miller is my father. My dad has been influential in my life by teaching me to think outside of myself and extend my thoughts to the needs of others. Making choices and taking actions because they will serve, benefit, or positively influence the lives of others are reflections of my dad's influence on me. I love you, Dad. Congratulations.
I am Howard Kolodner, the guy who hired Bruce Miller to the job for which we are honoring him today. From the dean point of view, Bruce's hire brought to the students and to the faculty three qualities for which I was grateful during my deanship. The first is a passion for justice through the law. Passion for justice is proclaimed by many in our society, but unwavering faith in the achievability of justice through law rises and falls for most of us, but not for Bruce. Second is a passion for developing lawyers from the raw material of students. Most, if not all, law faculty members share in that objective. Bruce lives by it and succeeds in it far better than most. Third, Bruce has an amazing blend of insistence on autonomy and on collaboration. These are not obviously inconsistent behaviors, but they are not always to be found cohabiting. I do not share with Bruce his love of sports, and I do prefer Bob Dylan to the Grateful Dead. But these aside, I will always admire Bruce's character, his intellect, and his values.
His accolades and legacy aside, one of my fondest memories is having a beer or two together at Patty's and really getting to know him outside of the classroom. He has encouraged, guided, and supported me through every step of my legal education and career, and for that I couldn't be more thankful. Professor Miller, I wish you nothing but the very best IPAs in retirement. Cheers to you.
Professor Miller has been influential in my life because he told me that a law license is a license to make trouble, and I've been trying to take that to heart ever since. Good luck, Professor Miller. Keep on keeping on.
In 1991, I began my teaching career at Western New England College School of Law. I heard it's now a university. I can't believe that it's been that long ago. At the time, I was not that much older than many of my students. At WNE Law, I was the second African-American faculty member hired and the first person of color tenured and promoted to full professor. Western New England was my first teaching assignment. It was hard to become a good teacher and scholar. It was frustrating at times. Being the first had its unique challenges. But Bruce Miller was there. He was considered an excellent teacher and scholar. But most importantly, he provided me with reassurance and calm. His belief and support in me contributed to my ultimate success, making me who I am today. Bruce, congratulations on 40 years. Please enjoy the next stage of your life. Hold dear all the memories of all the students and all the junior faculty who you've helped over the years. Speaking on their behalf, I know that they appreciate it. Congratulations.
I'm Leora Harpaz. I was a faculty colleague of Bruce's for over 30 years, and for much of that time, Bruce and I both taught constitutional law. Based on my experience, having been retired for almost 7 years, Bruce, I hope you can find opportunities to continue to use your intellect and your concern for people in ways that are rewarding for both you and for others. Plus, since I'm filming this on October 31st, I also wish for both our sakes that Joe Biden is elected president and that the U.S. Supreme Court doesn't insert itself into the election.
Hi, Dad. Although I wasn't your student in the classroom, I can absolutely say that you inspired me to become a lawyer. As a kid, you and Mom taught me and Emily that we have a responsibility to use the great advantages with which we grew up to help people around us that were less advantaged than we were, that were oppressed in some way or were suffering in some way. And for me, the way to do that was through the practice of law. So it is because of you that I went to law school, and it is because of you that I became a union side labor lawyer representing everyday working people and the labor unions that fight tirelessly for better wages and working conditions. You also inspired me in my love for the Grateful Dead and my love for NCAA basketball and my love for ethnic food. Congratulations. I love you very much.
Hi Bruce, Claudia here from sunny Los Angeles, California, where it is a sweltering 90 degrees in November. Just stopping by to wish you a very great retirement and congratulate you, and to thank you so much for the support that you gave me when I was in law school, for being a rabble-rouser like me and always encouraging me to keep going and do what I wanted and be passionate and not care what anybody said, and for being a sounding board and supporting me. I am so grateful, and I just look up to you and admire you so much and hope to be half as great as you someday. I hope your retirement is full of peace and tranquility and happiness, and you get to do all the things you love with your children and your family, and you find time for you because you really deserve it. I hope that, you know, it's all you want it to be, and I'll see you around. Okay, Rabble Rouser? Take care. Bye.
Congratulations on your retirement, Poppy. We love you.
Wow. I'm overwhelmed.
All right, am I?
Hey, there's Charles.
Hey,
Charles.
Prof, what's going on, my friend?
Well, the Lakers did it.
I'm so happy for you and your Lakers.
Yes, indeed.
Is it my time? Am I supposed to be speaking now? You know, they gave me the script.
Time.
It is my time. Well, Prof, you know how I am with scripts.
I do.
I can't wait to go off them. So let me just say first and foremost, congratulations to you, brother. 40 years. That's amazing. Even to say is just amazing. And I'm wondering, was it because you couldn't find nothing else to do? What were you? I mean, so they said to me that that I need to talk about memories. And so I'm going to tell a couple of funny stories. And my goal in life has always been to be an irritant. I figure that if you're not going to leave a stain, if you're not going to make your mark in life, then what are you doing? You're just wasting everybody's time, most importantly, your own. And to some extent, I think we shared that philosophy. And that's what made us kindred spirits, you know, and that's why I was so drawn to you when I was at Western New England. So when they asked me to talk about memories of your class, I got to be honest with everybody and say that I thought long and hard, but I really don't have any because I didn't go to that many, as you well know. And it was now that doesn't set you apart from Professor Wolf or Cohen or Levins or Clodner or Baines or Harpaz, but I had a special love for you when I didn't go to your class because I was out there in the world, man, making good trouble. And I had the blessing and the benefit of linking up with a guy named Perman Glenn who got me involved right away in causing good trouble. And so with your love and support, and every once in a while getting on me for coming to class, making sure I came to class, and the opportunities that Perman gave me, along with all the other professors I mentioned, Wolf and Cohen and Levins and Clodner, Baines, and Harpaz, man, that sounds like a killer law firm, right? That's a serious law firm right there. Well, I'll tell you, some serious minds right there. Well, with all of that, I just felt about as blessed as a man could possibly be. A young man could be trying to find his way and find his purpose. And I think a lot of what I heard about you being a rabble rouser and encouraging folks to find their purpose in, you know, speaking truth to power, using the law as that tool was something that really resonated with me. And I want to thank you personally for that. Because I got where I got today on my feet, you know, not on my knees. And I appreciate what you gave me for that very much. So a couple things. You must be really old, man. And you know why? You know why? Because I saw a picture of you just now on that video tribute, and you were standing next to a bunch of books. The hell are those? What the hell is the books? What is it? Oh my God! So next they're gonna have the guy with the gunpowder thing. You know, he's gonna be under the sheet taking your picture. That was probably your high school graduation picture, right? So so I want to be candid with everybody. I was the coolest guy in your class. We all know that. I was the coolest guy in the school, 3 years running, no question. And for like 10 years after that, right? And before me, forget about it. But I must give you props. I must give you love and respect, because even though I was the coolest guy in the class and I carried all that kind of swag with me, you gave me a D. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did, madam. Your husband gave me a D. Yes, he did. And I want to let him know right now that D stands for dissent, because that's how it is. That's how I'm getting down right now. But let me tell you something. It's pretty cool that you gave me a D for two reasons. One, because I got much love and respect for you, because you were like, yeah, man, I love you too, but brother, you didn't come to my class, so take this D and get on out of here. And the second reason is that it gives me an out. Because every time I'm in court and like Luke Bryan's in front of me or something, and there's some really technical constitutional argument, and they look at me and they say, Judge, what do you think? I'm like, what the hell are you asking me for? I got a D in constitutional law. I'm like, you better call Professor Miller. Ask him. I have no idea. Also, man, your love of music, your love of sports. I heard your daughters talking, and your love of sports, and I think I heard Professor Clodner talking about that. We were pretty disappointed you never decided to coach the men's basketball team. I know that's because we were spoiled, and we thought too much of ourselves and hard to work with, and so you chose a group of folks that would listen and wanted to be teammates, and that was the ladies, of course, and you had a lot of success with them. So I think you made the right move. But I just want you to know we were disappointed that you never wanted to come out and coach us. But your love of sports, man, how many hours did me, you, and Julian spend talking about the beloved game that we love? That's right, the hoops that we love. And your love was real. Your love was sincere, man. I seen you out there in practice, and the love didn't come from your skills, I'll tell you that. But but it was love nonetheless, brother. I could see the love. I could almost taste it. It was amazing, the love you have for the game and your knowledge of the game, and your love of competition and all that was beautiful. I know you're a left coast guy. I respect that tremendously. Your love of the dead, man, was really special to me, because, you know, remember my boy Jeremy Hager, who also was a crazy deadhead. And I just want to let you know that it wasn't the ghost of Jerry Garcia that left you that gift under your door that time. It was me and Jeremy. And we also want to let you know that you were a lot more mellow from that point on when you came to class. I just want to let you know that. Now, I think the statute of limitations has run out, so I'm good to go on that. But
Better
I
hope.
just want to, yeah, I just want to let you know. And in case it hasn't, it was actually Jeremy, so I didn't have nothing to do with it. But I think that's it. I got a bunch of, I got a quick judge joke. When a lawyer is in court and they're arguing their facts, we're like, okay. When they're arguing the law, we're like, yeah, okay. When they're arguing the Constitution, we're like, dude, your client's screwed. I just want you to know that, okay? So,
Last ditch.
you know what I'm saying, right? When you're throwing the Constitution out there, I'm like, okay, the Constitution, the framers were thinking about this, brother. You're telling me that? That's what they were thinking about when they crafted that? Madison was talking about this guy? All right. So I think that's it, man. I just want to tell you I love you very much. When I was thinking about this, when they asked me, I was honored. I don't know if you had any say in it or not. If you did, thank you. If you didn't, don't tell me, because it'll spoil the dream and the feelings that I have. But I just want to let you know how much I love you, man. What an integral and important part of my life and my journey you have been, and always will be. I share with you what a man shared with me when I was the best man at my friend Jeremy's wedding. And I gave a speech, and the rabbi came up to me after and he said, "You, my friend, are a true mensch." And I didn't know what it meant, not at the time. But I said, if it's good, then I'm it, you know, I like it. And then, but I could tell by the way he was saying it, you know, he had like tears in his eyes, that it was something beautiful. So I share that with you, Brother Bruce. You're a true mensch, man. A true human being, someone that resonates in every aspect of who you are, every fiber of your being. The law just happened to be the thing that you fell into. You could have done anything, because your whole purpose in life was just to make the world a better place and try to help people. And I recognize that, and I thank you very much for that.
Sure.
And I want to give a shout out to someone who I miss a lot, and I thought about when I thought about making these remarks for you, that I know you miss, and we both miss and love dearly, and that's Professor Cole.
Yes, indeed.
So, yeah.
Thank you for mentioning that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I just wanted to mention that man's name. Okay. So that's it. That's my remarks. Do I get to log off now? I got to hang around. What I got to do?
You better not.
I think the part that is in the script would be stellar.
Oh, well, excuse me. Obviously, I guess sorry about that, sister. My apologies. Let me then say, looking at the script here, it is now time for me to introduce the Honorable Katie. Oh, no, my fault. The Professor Arthur Levins. Professor Levins taught criminal law and evidence at Western New England from 1983 until his retirement in 2015. He's also famous for hanging out with me in the Mr. Potato Head Park in Long Meadow when he was there with Laurel and their beautiful granddaughter. And I was there with my daughter, and I would bump into them in Mr. Potato Head Park. So we can't go there tonight, Arthur. It's cold, it's raining, it's nasty, and my baby's not little no more. And I'm sure your granddaughter's not either. But it was great to hang out with you and Lauren then. And I can't wait to hear your remarks. So thank you for joining us, folks. Professor Arthur Levins.
Well, thank you very much, Charles. And before I get started, I just have to ask you, were you in my class? I don't remember that.
No, I didn't take any of your classes, man, because you made students work. I wasn't gonna do that.
Well, thank you very much. It's indeed an honor to be asked to say a few words tonight about a former colleague and a good friend for whom I have the deepest respect and admiration. I think back on my time at the law school and what a privilege it was to work with and get to know its students, staff, alums, administrators, faculty, just a remarkable group of people. Look no further than tonight's honorees, MC, and other speakers for proof of that. Tonight, we pay tribute to a special one of those folks, a man whose judgment, intellect, integrity caused him to be the person to whom we on the faculty often turn, particularly when we hit an occasional rough patch. I start with the obvious. Bruce is amazingly smart. I mean, I understand that's no secret, but a lot of folks are smart. Maybe not Bruce smart, but plenty smart. Few, however, at least in our profession, combine it with genuine, unadulterated, sometimes maddening humility. I used to practice with a law school classmate of Bruce, who, when I saw him after I joined the faculty, told me a story, that of the Harvard Law School 4%ers. It seems that during their first year, some administrator or another decided to survey the first-year class, asking students if they thought they would be on the law review, which in those days was based solely on first-year grades. To believe that someone thought that was a good idea, well, you had to go there. Turns out 96% of the students responded that they would be among the chosen few. Again, you had to go there. Bruce was among the 4% who demurred, believing that requires only that you know Bruce. Even though we taught and wrote in different areas, I always asked Bruce to read drafts of my written work and then chat with me about it. I'll concede that part of the reason for going to Bruce was that these critiques almost always involved beer. There's nothing quite like a couple of tall ones that take the the edge off insightful criticism of ideas that you have somehow convinced yourself are brilliant. But criticism there was, to be sure, encouraging, certainly non-judgmental, but always thoughtful and right on the money. My pieces were much better for it, and I know that I was not alone in that regard. Of course, Bruce was more than a gifted teacher and scholar. As Charles has mentioned, he was a longtime coach of the law school women's basketball team, which year after year more than held their own in the law school's annual East Coast tournament. No small feat that. I'm going to take issue with Charles, though, here, because it's no surprise to hear that he shot a pretty good 3-ball as a starting guard on the intramural faculty team back in the old days. Imagine that as we hobble around now in search of our walkers. Bruce has always been a diehard sports fan, staying up to watch the West Coast NBA games and baseball games, kind of like moving from New York, but never giving up your season ballet tickets. When as associate dean, I yearly asked faculty members if for scheduling preferences, he always said he would teach anything, anytime, music to my ears, as long as it was after 10 in the morning. What with the games, he never went to bed before 2. One thing seemed odd, though. Bruce was born in Chicago, grew up in LA, went to law school in Boston, practiced in LA, and then taught in Springfield. So what's his favorite major league team? I'm here to tell you. Finally, there's politics. Who can resist? Bruce had favorites there, too. The first of whom he admitted to me, ready, was Barry Goldwater. Imagine, if you will, Bruce at a rally with a sign proclaiming, "I'm in your heart, you know he's right." He's right, all right, but I digress. Bruce, I don't have a watch for you. If I did, it might be the first one you ever owned. So you'll have to settle instead for some retirement advice that, at least pre-plague, has served me well. Remember, Jane took you for better or for worse, but no. Have fun, spoil the grandkids, stay well. I love the both of you and hope to see you again when happy days are here again.
Fantastic. Thank you, Prof. That's sweet. And you're looking good in that Giants uni, man.
He does.
Looking good. Man, now I will say this. We used to joke all the time. If Central Casting was going to pick a law professor, it would be Arthur Levins, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Without question.
No doubt.
There's no doubt about it. This guy looks like, he's ready to teach something out of some old book somewhere at the drop of at a moment's notice. And if you were going to have Central Casting for a guy that was going to walk around and protest with a picket sign, it would be Bruce Miller. That's definitely, you know what I mean? So that's beautiful. And it's beautiful to hear of the bond and the brotherhood and the fellowship and the relationship. So on that note, we'll turn to someone else, Bruce, who wants to give a tribute to you and talk about how much we all love you, man. And that's the Honorable Katie Roberson. And I don't think it's any secret to say that the best decision Mark Mastriani ever made was to beg, plead, and cajole Katie Roberson to follow him up the street to the federal court. He's a much better judge for it because it shows some fantastic judgment on his part. I love this lady. She's super duper smart. Forget about it. So I know she's going to have some beautiful, outstanding things to say about you. All right. So I want to introduce y'all now to the Honorable Katie Roberson. What do I have to do? Do I have to do anything else? Where's Katie? Oh, do I have to say how smart you are, Katie? She graduated summa cum laude.
No. Yeah, I'm so glad you talked about Bruce's love of basketball. I can like cross that out of my outline. I'm so very grateful that other people have talked about all of the wonderful work he's done for, on a variety of projects, civil rights projects and so on, people who've worked with him more closely. I'm going to talk about Bruce. Other people have done this too, but I'm going to talk about Bruce as a teacher, who he was. It was a wonderful experience. I was so happy to be asked to be part of this tribute. Going back to thinking about law school, it really takes me back to a happy time. Probably that's peculiar in the context of law school, but for me it was great. I'd been working for years. I was what they call a non-traditional student, and it was just so much more fun to be a student than it was to be somebody who had to go to work every day. But it was great. But I had a really good time at law school because of the faculty members, people like Bruce, people like Art, Leora, and it was really wonderful to be reminded of Kathy Jones. So thank you, Elena. I hadn't thought of Kathy in a number of years. People who were teachers who were smart, accessible, engaging, and passionate about what they were teaching us. Unlike Charles, I went to those classes, so I really knew how passionate they were about their subject and how knowledgeable they were, and how really interesting the subject matter was. So I spent a little bit of time online getting ready for this tonight, and I read that Bruce, he liked the subject matter in law school, but he didn't really like the classes. He didn't like the way people taught, I think. And so probably in reaction to that, our experience in class with Bruce was remarkable. I think we all remember him like pacing from one side of the room to the other at top speed. I have this feeling there might have been chalk involved. I don't know. And I'm really curious to know what you've substituted for that form of exercise, Bruce, now that you don't do that anymore. But what I really remember about Bruce as a teacher was his ability to take these questions. I mean, students, we would ask these questions that were confused and that were confusing. And he had this ability to listen to the question that the student asked. Sometimes the question had a point that was pretty obvious and had just been inartfully phrased. Sometimes the question was just completely off the wall. And Bruce would take that question and he'd spin it into gold. He'd figure out what the student was thinking about. He'd relate the question to the subject that was under discussion, and then he'd just move the class on smoothly. So, as a student, you were just never embarrassed by asking a question. See, Charles, you should have come. You were never embarrassed by asking a question in one of Bruce's classes. And I have thought of that over the years, and I've thought of it many times, and I've thought of it as a gift, but I don't think that's giving Bruce credit, because I think it was a skill that he honed as a professor and a conscious choice to make the classroom the place where we all felt comfortable. I mean, there are many, many other things to say about Bruce as a teacher. He's brilliant. He's so knowledgeable. He's approachable. He's kind. He could be really funny on occasion, and that was really appreciated. He never pandered to his students. He never talked down to us. He loved the subject matter he taught. He brought it to life. He made it fascinating, made it intellectually challenging. And he included every member of the class in those discussions. He's just a great teacher. And what good luck for all of us that he was. And I wanted to talk briefly about the legal subjects that were Bruce's special areas of expertise. He's chosen, I think, to talk about and teach about and write about constitutional law and the jurisdiction of the federal courts. And they're legally complex fields. They're the subjects of any number of books and articles. They're topics that you talk about endlessly, theoretically. And Bruce did some of that. We did some of that in class. We talked about the balance of power between the federal and the state governments and the federal and the state courts. And I remember this too, the reach of the Commerce Clause as a basis for federal legislation. I actually do remember that, Bruce. But these are areas of law that have a day-to-day impact on our lives. And that's really mainly how Bruce taught his subject matter. And he did that with insight and compassion. There have been times when federal courts have been a forum of choice for cases that advance civil rights. And I think they were that kind of a beacon for litigation that could make societal changes when Bruce started out. Whether you still think that's true, it might depend to some extent on your politics. I don't know whether federal courts are going to continue to interpret the US Constitution as protecting a right of privacy, including a woman's right to choose. And we now know that the federal courts interpret the Constitution as providing some as yet undefined level of protection for a right of gun ownership. I haven't been in Bruce's class for 30 years now, but I'm sure he's continued to teach his students about constitutional law and the jurisdiction of the federal courts with both eyes on the impact that the decisions have on the people who are before the court and on all of us. Thinking, teaching, and writing about constitutional law and the jurisdiction of the federal courts is an important job. No one could do it better than Bruce. I certainly speak for myself. I'm sure I speak for many of us when I say that I really did love those classes, and they helped shape the way I think. They helped shape the way I hope I behave as a lawyer. I'd take them again today in a heartbeat if I could. I wouldn't be bored for a minute. After 30 years, I think my questions might be better, but Bruce has always been at the top of his game. So I really thank you, Bruce, for all the years you gave to all of us. I don't even really know how to express how much it's meant to us as students and as lawyers. I just don't. So thank you. And please enjoy your retirement.
That's beautiful. Fantastic. Thank you so much, Katie. I would take them again too, Bruce. I just want you to know that. The classes. I would take them again too. Am I muted? No. Did I lose him? Did we lose him?
We're here.
Oh, okay. Man, that's just an outstanding jurist right there. That lady has a beautiful intellect and a special gift, and you know, that's a federal judge for you. I'm a state judge, brother. Okay. All right, meat and potatoes over here, baby. Meat and potatoes. That was filet mignon. You get the meat and potatoes over here.
Thank you, Charles.
You got it. You know it, Katie. You know it.
You know that before I got to be a judge, I came and sat in your courtroom to watch you do it.
I know. Listen, I feel you on that. That was, man, I was sitting there, I was like, man, what's her decision gonna be? Man, that's a dope speech. I was loving that, Katie. I was loving that. And it's true. And I was only messing with you, Bruce. You know, I went to a couple of classes, man. You know, I was checking you out, man. You know, I was checking you out. I'm just messing with you, brother. It's called comedy, man. Come on, brother. You know, I'm trying to get a few laughs out of the brother. You know what I mean?
Why he wanted you for this job.
I can say that's right. I respect that. I respect this game. All right. So next up, we have Attorney Bob Reeve. I don't know Attorney Reeve, so I can't really say anything funny about him. But I'm sure he's going to be very sincere and earnest, and he's going to talk about how much he loves you, man, and what an impact you had on him, even if it ain't true, because he's forced to, because they put him on this damn list. So I'm going to tell you, he's a 1983 graduate of the School of Law and currently a partner at Scully, Nicksaw, and Reeve. So I want to thank Attorney Reeve for joining us this evening. You now have the floor, sir.
Thank you very much, Judge. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here. I was a member of Bruce's first and favorite class, which was the class of 1983. Just to show you how great we were, I was scrolling through everybody at the bottom of my screen, and I see Ron Waldman, I see Laura Fredericks, I see Scott Lesney, of course, Judge Hyland, and my wife, Susan Cohan-Reed, is here as well. So if any other class has more than that, let us know and we'll give you the honor. Back in February, Jane sent me an email saying that Bruce had finally decided to hang up his baseball cap and retire. And she asked me to make a few remarks about some of his favorite things. And she told me to focus on moot court, basketball, and music, and specifically what a long, strange trip it's been, which is a reference to one of Bruce's favorite bands. And then last month, I got a call from Harris Freeman saying, well, it's going to be a remote gathering, and my time is now down to 4 minutes. So I have to cover the last 40 years in 4 minutes. So in the beginning, there was a lot going on at the law school when Bruce and Jane and the class of '83 arrived in Springfield in the fall of 1980. The full-time program was, I think, only 7 years old, and the Blake Law Center had just been built the previous year. And as others have said, the faculty was very young, very new to teaching, and just very eager to engage with us and to share their talents. And I think that's really the legacy of Western New England in my eyes. It's always been a student-centered law school. It was true 40 years ago, and I think it's still true today from what I hear. So 1980 wasn't long after the movie The Paper Chase came out, and Professor Kingsfield, you probably remember him, he went to Harvard, and we heard that Bruce went to Harvard, and we're like, yikes, this guy's going to teach us con law. Not to fear, Bruce was no Kingsfield. We were unprepared for his sartorial splendor, for his choice of headwear, or his teaching style. As others have said, the main focus of his teaching style was to maximize the number of miles that he could cover. during a 1-hour lecture, and I see Jane going like this. It was kind of like watching a ping pong match. You know, your neck got sore by the end of the hour, but it was a lot of fun. Seriously, you know, we soon learned that Bruce, while he had a passion for the law, his real passion was for people, especially his students. He had a fierce intellect, but he never used it in a manner that made his students feel uncomfortable, if they were prepared anyway. He had strongly held beliefs, but in his classroom, you know, all viewpoints were respected and tolerated. And what impressed me about Bruce was he had strong bonds with everybody around the law school. I mean, the faculty, but also the administration, you know, the staff people. I mean, the way I watched him interact with his administrative staff, and I hope that I've been able to, you know, treat the people who work with me and for me in the same way that he treated everybody else. You know, we were all equals in his eyes, all worthy of friendship and respect. And I'm not exaggerating when I say that he knew more of my classmates and more about my classmates than I did. And he remembers those details about us to this day, you know, 40 years later, which is a true testament for his love for people. So I was probably asked to do this because of moot court. And for many years, Bruce was a coach on one of the school's various moot courts teams. And that's how I got to know him and became his, proud to say, his friend. And, you know, moot court advising, that's kind of a thankless task. Long hours, low pay, and some very interesting personalities to try to mold into a team. And when you're on Bruce's team, you would do 10 or 15 or 20 practice arguments. And as I remember, Art Wolf was at every one of them, or close to them. And now that's a lot of time away from a young family, Jane. And we recognized that at the time. And by the way, we went out to Bruce and Jane's house. Emily and Lauren were babies. You know, it was a true family environment. And I was honored to be asked to come back and participate in some of those practice arguments for a long time afterwards. and his patience and dedication to his teams never wavered, even after many decades. So, you know, our team, we didn't win the competition. Bruce probably remembers more about it than I do. But I'll say that we gained skills and confidence that have lasted a lot longer than any trophy would have. So thank you for that, Bruce. You know, moving on to basketball. So I want to correct Professor Levins. Back when Bruce was on the faculty basketball team, there was no three-point line in those days. That's how old this dude is, all right? This was 1980, 1981. I think that rule came in 83 or 84, something like that. But he was the point guard, and it was a very competitive team, and a lot of blood was shed on the court. But he is a legend as the coach of the women's basketball team, and was recognized for his service on the 40th anniversary of the Law School Invitational back 5 years ago. And in another 5 years or so, the Hall of Fame down the street will be calling, and we'll be honored to attend your induction ceremony there, Bruce. Finally, you know, no discussion of Bruce Miller would be complete without touching on his love of music, which we share. So Bruce is a fan of all types of music, jazz, which I knew something about. Then he introduced me to something called Western swing, which I knew nothing about, which I now like. And of course, anything involving Jerry Garcia. You may be familiar with another movie. It's called The Last Waltz, and that's an all-star concert movie. You know, Eric Clapton, Bob Dylan, Van Morrison, Joni Mitchell, Muddy Waters. And near the end of the movie, Neil Young came out and they introduced him. And he said something I want to quote from. He said, "It's one of the great pleasures of my life to be on this stage with these people here tonight." And that's, you know, how I feel right now. To be asked to speak at this gathering is just one of the honors of my life. And Bruce, there's no way to put into words the depth of our affection and gratitude and love that we have for you. It just simply can't be done. So all we can say is thank you. So Bruce and Jane, and may you be greatly prospered and blessed in all that you do. Your contributions to our school and our lives are beyond reckoning, and you'll be greatly missed but never forgotten. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Bob. Hey, Susan.
Yes. Thank you, Attorney Reeve. Bob, man, that was beautiful. Thank you so much, man. Absolutely. Absolutely. And you're right. There was no three-point line. I think them brothers were shooting on peach baskets. That's how old those brothers were. And I bet you I bet y'all was wearing them tighties too, right? Y'all was wearing them snugglies too?
Yeah, Bruce
I bet
played
you
for
was wearing
Dr. Naismith. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. That's right. That's right. Man, that's awesome. All right. Okay, so we're gonna now go to probably a very serious man because he deals with let's see, academic affairs, and anytime academic affairs is mentioned, you guys know it's pretty serious. He's the president, the interim provost, vice president, I'm sorry, for academic affairs. I don't know this gentleman, but he's also on the list. But I did see that he is a tenured professor of sports management at our College of Business and director of the Center for International Sport Business, and also a 1984 graduate of the School of Law. So very accomplished, and I'd love to sit down and talk to the man about international sport business. That's way cool, and that's something I would have loved to have been involved in when I was at the law school. But I want to now introduce Professor or Vice President or Attorney Kurt Hamakawa. Did I pronounce that right, Kurt?
You did.
You got
Yeah.
that
Very
right,
good.
Charles. Thanks for the
Very
kind
good.
introduction. Hey,
Yes,
by the
sir.
way, you're doing an excellent, superb job as the
Thank you,
MC
brother.
of this portion, so kudos to you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
I got 3 minutes, so I'm going to give everybody on this call a 3-minute warning for a heads up because there's going to be a toast at the end. And I know I'm not going to call out anybody, but I know many of you have a glass of wine or a mug of beer out of the photo shot, but I'm giving you permission to bring it in because we're going to have a toast in 3 minutes. But this is such a wonderful reunion for all of us, right, associated with our beloved law school and the kinship that we share. And it's all because of this occasion, celebrating Elena, Talia, Barbara, and certainly Professor Emeritus Bruce Miller. So thank you all for bringing us together for this occasion. I'm Kurt Hamakawa, class of '84, and I was one of the many thousands of students fortunate to have had Bruce Miller as a professor over his 40-year teaching career at Western New England School of Law. And in my case, it dates back to 1981, con law in Bruce's second year of teaching at the law school. And my fondest memories of Bruce, aside from his incessant pacing from side to side at the front of the classroom, were his ubiquitous Miller time huddles, whereby a student or a group of students would gather around Bruce, whether it was post-class or in the foyer or the lobby or the hallway or the library or anywhere else, to glean and dispense knowledge on the law. This was the contemporary version of what it must have been like to have studied under Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, and the like. Miller time huddles, that's what I called them. Bruce epitomized what it meant to put students at the center of learning, as he was always available to interact and engage when it came to students. You all know what I'm talking about. What some of you might not know about Bruce is that he is fiercely competitive, especially for a seemingly laid-back Californian. I know this having played with and against him on various law intramural sport teams. So aside from being an exceptional law professor and a champion for social justice, Bruce fancied himself a coach, which if you think about it, makes perfect sense, given his aforementioned pacing tendencies. Bruce's classroom pacing was but a metaphor for his parallel coaching career. Many of you know that the law school hosts the country's largest and longest running law school basketball tournament, which this year we heard celebrated its 45th anniversary. And you also heard previously that a few years back, 5 years ago at the 40th anniversary from Robert, Bruce was honored for his service as the longtime coach of the law school's women's team, whose tenure I think puts them ahead of even UConn's Gino Ariema. So we know where Bruce's true love lied, aside from the law. It was in sport, and particularly being a coach of sport. So Bruce, on behalf of your legion of former students, colleagues, and friends, I thank you for your brilliant career at Western New England School of Law and wish you and Jane happy trails in the next chapter. Fellow attendees, please join me in raising a glass in a toast to law professor and human being extraordinaire, Bruce Miller.
Thank you, Kurt.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, that was sweet. That was very nice. That was very nice. Thank you, Kurt. It was a pleasure to hear your words, and I look forward to meeting you in person, man. Get a chance to get to know you. That was fantastic. Okay, so one thing that Kurt said that I want to make sure I touch on is I also want to give my congratulations to Elena and Talia, and to my good friend and colleague, Barbara Hyland, and to Tasha. Tasha, we miss you a lot down at the courthouse. I'm happy to hear you doing big things, but I just want you to know you are missed. I also want to say, ladies, that's fantastic. You're like the squad. Look at y'all just banging out. And guys, we need to step our game up, because I didn't see a single dude that won an award this year. So that's kind of lame on our part. So, but that makes perfect sense for Bruce, because Bruce was such a man who would support those who hadn't gotten opportunities, who would encourage folks who society had left behind. And it's there's no coincidence that it would be women who would be celebrated because of how much energy he put into leveling playing fields and giving folks opportunities. And it's no wonder that there's two African-American women who are receiving awards as well. Bruce, God don't make mistakes, man. So, that's real, boss. That's real. That's an actual statement from the universe as to who you are and what you believe in. So congratulations on that as well. Okay, so I understand there's a video now where you are going to be receiving an honor, my friend. Yes, a emeritus status.
Yeah. Oh,
right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Although the pandemic has delayed this conferral for some months, I'm honored to acknowledge a distinguished faculty member who retired in May 2020 and who will be granted the rank of Professor Emeritus. I welcome Professor Bruce Miller to join me. Bruce Miller, Professor of Law, brings a legacy of exceptional service to the School of Law and to the university. Prior to coming to Western New England University in 1980, Professor Miller worked for the National Senior Citizens Law Center in Los Angeles, California, specializing in Social Security and private pension litigation in the federal courts. Before that, he was an attorney with the U.S. Department of Health, Education, and Welfare. For 40 years, Professor Miller taught generations of students at the School of Law in constitutional law, federal courts, civil procedure, law and terrorism, and other public law and litigation-related subjects. Professor Miller's area of scholarly interest focus on the challenges to the rule of law that have emerged as a result of the attacks on September 11th, 2001, and on legal issues that especially affect poor people. He is president of No More Guantanamos, a nonprofit advocacy group, and serves on the board of the Rosenberg Fund for Children. He is also a member of the Massachusetts Committee for Public Counsel Representation. He has been awarded the Catherine J. Jones Professor of the Year Award at the School of Law many times over the course of his career, most recently in spring of 2020. Professor Miller is a beloved classroom teacher known to students, alumni, and colleagues as a champion for social justice causes and for his work at the School of Law, educating thoughtful, ethical, passionate advocates. It is my pleasure to award Bruce Miller the rank of Professor Emeritus. Thank you, Professor Miller, for all of your work on behalf of the School of Law and the university over the last 4 decades. We wish you all the best on your retirement from all of us at the university. Thank you.
Now, do you get a pay raise for that?
And they did. No pay raise. This is WNEC after all. We need every cent, right?
Amen. Amen. Well, congratulations, Bruce.
Thanks, Charles.
Absolutely. Okay, so folks, it's now my privilege and honor to introduce the man of the hour, the man who truly needs no introduction. It's time to hear from the man himself, the professor, Bruce Miller. But before we hear from you, Bruce, I do want to say that I don't know that that was actually you up there getting that award. I'm going to tell you why.
Yeah.
Because I never seen you with no damn tie on. So I'm not sure that,
Yeah.
you know, I'm a little skeptical.
Yeah. At least it was a Garcia tie, Charles.
Oh, okay. Well, then, yes, indeed. Then it was indeed you. Yes, indeed. It was you. All right. So you have the floor, my friend.
All right. Oh my goodness. Thank you, Charles.
Yes, sir.
I am kind of obliterated here, and I have a feeling that Emily and Lauren, if they're still watching, are having some trouble recognizing the father they knew, because they know that I have one skill and one skill only, maybe two in life. One of them is talking incessantly, and the other one is probably shooting the three, whether there's a line or not. I do want to say, Charles, that even though you might not have come to class all that often, you were the only person I ever taught who, after not coming to class, would come after class in order to hang out with Julian Tynes and me and talk about music and religion and politics till all hours of the night. Now, thanks so much, Charles. I'm overwhelmed, but I'm so grateful to everybody for putting this together. It's wonderful to be recognized along with Elena and Talia, who played, I think, on our last championship team, on the women's team, and Barb Hyland, who was in my very first class. I never thought that I would be actually grateful for some kind of an online app, computer phobic as I remain, for connecting me with everybody. But here we are, and I am. This has been. I'm floored, and I'm honored, and I'm humbled. I want to thank Sudha for I think this was her idea, and Luke and his firm for their support, and Bill Newman also for his, and all of you, Bob and Art and Kurt and Katie, and you, Charles, for these reminiscences and these descriptions of all of our good times. Mark Twain got a lot right about our country, but he got something very right about work also. And he said at some point, find a job that you love and you'll never do a day of work in your life. And that really has been true of me as a lawyer, both as a legal services lawyer and then especially as a teacher, and especially at Western New England, where I think the sense of community and mutuality and devotion to the development of our students as well-rounded ethical professionals is really second to none. The only time I ever felt like I was doing any work in 40 years were those occasional Friday afternoon faculty meetings. And, you know, I 11s can definitely remember some of those where it was like the last place I wanted to be, but I had to be there. But otherwise, you know, it was just something that I couldn't wait to do. And I guess I have to give great thanks to Jane, my wife and life partner, and my daughters, our daughters, Emily and Lauren, for all the time I spent away from them because I loved what I was doing so much. Emily and Lauren, of course, did come along to a fair number of those basketball practices, and Lauren used to keep track of the NBA draft for me when I was teaching summer school, and that Wednesday night in June when it came along. You know, I'm going to touch on just a few things in a little bit of time, and it's probably a good thing that Katie DeBeers got control of the mute button so that she can use it whenever, regardless of what I think. Enough time has passed by. I guess I feel like this life that I've had, which my time at Western New England has contributed enormously to, is the result of being incredibly lucky, of being somebody who turned up at the right place at the right time over and over again. You know, sort of Zelig-like. I mean, I grew up in Los Angeles in the 1950s and early 1960s, and had the great good fortune to be a straight white guy in the public schools at a time when Sputnik had liberated a tremendous amount of money, where the California taxpayers were still supporting the public schools, where because of I think segregation, there was still a lot of public support for them, sadly and ironically. But I got an incredible public school education that prepared me for just about anything. And that was blind luck. I also had extraordinarily thoughtful parents. I mean, my parents were like everybody's parents. You know, I loved them and I hated them. I couldn't stand some of the stuff I thought they were bringing to bear on life, but in other ways, they gave me incredible gifts. Some of my earliest memories in 1951, when I had discovered that I loved the game of baseball, my dad said, there is a rookie with the New York Giants who is going to be the best center fielder ever to play the game. And that turned out was Willie Mays, who turned out to be, I guess, my first hero in life. And I still think my dad was right about that. And that's when I became a Giants fan. Two years later, I don't know how my dad thought I was old enough for this, but he did. He told me about Julius and Ethel Rosenberg at the time of their execution. And he wanted me to know about this because he thought it was such a betrayal of everything that our country ought to stand for. And that memory lived with me, forever. And you know, extraordinarily, many years later, I made the acquaintance of Robbie Mirapole at Western New England University Law School. The year later, I'm one of the few people around here who can say I sat live in front of the TV set and watched Joseph Welch say to Senator McCarthy, "At long last, sir, have you no sense of decency?" And those memories were vivid for me. And this is unaccountable. I can't believe it's what I'm about to say is true, but it is true. I nevertheless, after all of that, I became a Goldwater Republican. Levins is right, and Judge Bill Meade is no doubt smiling to hear it. And it was because I had this really great skepticism and fear of organized, centralized government power. And I thought that American conservatism, as I understood it, stood against that. And I stayed that way for a long time. I had another great piece of good luck, and that was to be able to study overseas in Germany for the first 6 months of 1965. And when I got over there, I not only had sort of the peak of my basketball life, because in Germany in '65, they were all still shooting the two-handed set shot. This was way before Detlef Schrempf. But they were already playing that European style of matador defense that they're known for today. And I had a great time playing basketball over there, but also seeing our country through other eyes. And during that 6 months that I was there, my 20th birthday was March the 7th of 1965, and that was Bloody Sunday on the Edmund Pettus Bridge. And I was seeing that and sort of experiencing that through European eyes, and what it said about our country and where we were, and our inability at that time to overcome the profound contradiction that's built into our Constitution, which both promises a more perfect union and also is deeply embedded and compromised with inequality, and in particular racial inequality. During that time, the United States invaded the Dominican Republic, one of our many, but one that hasn't gotten a lot of attention, but boy, did it give me attention. I was wondering where I was with Barry Goldwater, who I think supported that invasion fervently. By that time, Goldwater's main speechwriter, a guy named Karl Hess, whom I had admired very much, quit the Republican Party. He was kind of like one of these Lincoln Project folks. He abandoned the Republican Party, and he said he was becoming a member of an organization called Students for a Democratic Society. And I was curious about that because I had admired Hess so much, and I got this little publication called the Port Huron Statement, which I recommend to anybody to read. I think it reads as freshly today as it did when it was written more than 55 years ago. It was the founding charter of SDS, and it stood for the right of every person to participate in the decisions that affect their life. That's what I had thought conservatism stood for. I now had a new angle on it, and I guess in today's terms, over the space of about a month, I went from being what I would call an anarcho-capitalist to an anarcho-socialist. And that's sort of still where I am now, with a few meanders here and there. And so, that switch, I'm so grateful to have had that background as a conservative, because it's when I have had in my classes deeply conservative people whose basic political commitments are so different from mine. I have felt much of the time able to hear and be heard, and to see one another as humans. And now we're having so much trouble with all of that, but I'm grateful for the time I sort of spent on that side of the Gulf. I had a very hard time with law school. Amy talked about that. When she and I became teachers, our main goal was to try to do it somewhat differently than how it was done to us. I was convinced that traditional legal education was neither practical enough nor theoretical enough to be useful to very many people. But I had one really wonderful experience in law school that got me through. And it was that I was unaccountably hired to be a teaching assistant by a wonderful man named Dave Shapiro, who is a good friend of Howard's. And Dave never asked me what my grades were, thank goodness. And I finally learned civil procedure a little bit, helping him teach a small class. And it gave me a sense of having a calling, of something that I might want to do. But you know, after sort of switching politically, like many of you, I went into the law because I was moved and influenced enormously by Charles Houston and Thurgood Marshall, and the example they set in being able to use the American Constitution to achieve something contradictory. How do you use a founding document of a society to transform that society? There's a contradiction there somewhere, and I think there is a deep contradiction still in our Constitution, but nevertheless they did it. And their example, of course, spurred others. And what I wanted to do is I wanted to be a legal services lawyer and see if the legal system could be used to at least make things economically a little bit better for people at the very bottom end. And so I spent a couple of years working for what I now recognize as Deep State One during the Nixon administration. It's not like we were purposefully out to get Nixon. It's just that if you cared about your job, you couldn't help it. And I think there are people who have found current circumstances to be similar. But after that, becoming a legal services lawyer gave us, and I'm speaking of Jane too now because we met working for the National Senior Citizens Law Center, you had an example of a way of living a life with integrity. It was in the sense of wholeness, not so much honesty, but wholeness. It was hard to tell when you were working and when you weren't, because you're working on stuff, but then the next minute you're going to hear some music or a game, or you're playing a sport somewhere, or you're at a political meeting, and it's sort of the same people and with the same kinds of commitments. And it felt like both a balance between work and life, but also integrity is the word for it in how we lived. And my time in legal services was in some ways opportune, because by blind luck, it connected me to all kinds of social movements. The National Welfare Rights Organization, which is worth looking up. The daughter of one of the founders of that, George Wiley, a woman named Maya Wiley, I think is going to be the next mayor of New York City, if we're lucky. And, getting to know people in that movement, the Gray Panthers, the ACLU Women's Rights Project. I had a wonderful chance to work with Kathleen Paratus, who's one of the lawyers that Ruth Ginsburg hired for that program. Teamsters for a Democratic Union, trying to bring accountability to the Teamsters Union. It was the Gray Panthers, I might have mentioned them. It was wonderful. The main problem, of course, is that the war in court was over. And most of the time we lost in court. Katie was talking about whether the federal courts are hospitable to claims of the disempowered. That has been back and forth and on and off. And for the last 30 years, entirely the result of appointments strategies by presidents. But we at that time were right at the point where legal services went from mostly winning to mostly losing. It was a great job. I was given way more responsibility than I was entitled to at a very early age, and learned a lot by fire. I think it took me 5 tries to file my first complaint in federal court successfully. But it was an enormously satisfying period of our lives, and of course, it's where Jane and I got together and decided to make a life for each other. When our first daughter Emily was born, we really felt the need to get out of Los Angeles, and that's what prompted me to start looking for teaching jobs. We thought we would stay west if I landed something. But Western New England was one of the tiny little handful that was willing to give me a call back, and it's not like I had this stellar resume built for law teaching, but it still was an example of being in the right place at the right time, and also an example, I suppose, of the old boy privilege, at least to some degree, that prevailed. Turns out that Dave Shapiro, my mentor, is one of his really good friends in law school was Howard Kolodner. So how the hell is Howard not going to hire me if I'm Shapiro's, protege? And so he took a chance. But the main thing for me was coming to the school and seeing the tremendous sense of community among my colleagues, and talking to students who were genuinely pleased to be in law school. And the faculty who hired me gave me the feeling that I could try to do what I wanted to do, which was to be, number 1, more practical, and number 2, more theoretical, and number 3, have a wider range for debate and discussion than I had ever experienced, that I could do that and it would be okay. Oh my gosh, there's Daniel, our youngest grandson. And I don't know, are Ben and Whit in bed now? Are they long gone? Are they still up? Good. I was supposed to do, and Ben and Whit, thank you. I love you. You guys can use the gallery and spot them all. Howard hired me, and it turned out to be true. I was indulged, and allowed to teach the way I wanted to teach, to follow my sense of things, and not very many people at the age of 35 get to do that. And then it turns out we have this wonderful childcare co-op that Amy mentioned called Mud Pie, and half of Mud Pie was law school faculty parents. I get asked by these 3 first-year women around February of '81 if I would coach a team that they were putting together. And of course, for me, I coached in the Guy Lewis style when Drexler and Olajuwon were playing for Houston. That is, I rolled the ball out onto the floor and then they did whatever they were going to do. But I sort of, as Kurt wisely observed, I fancied myself a coach and loved the participation. My students in the early '80s are who really brought the Grateful Dead to my attention. I had been a jazz purist, and I disdained the Dead for the longest time, but came back to them. I owe to so many of you so many extraordinary memories of times with the National Moot Court team where, win or lose, and that also was mostly losing, the meals we had at places like Casa Romero in Boston, and this amazing Cajun restaurant up in Burlington. We had so many terrific times. I am so grateful to the legal services clinic students who allowed me to take part in their clinic classes, to the people who worked for the HIV/AIDS Law Consortium, and for all of those moments in class where I was aware that I was seeing things differently for the better. one of the certainly premier songwriters of the 20th century in America was Robert Hunter. And one of his best lyrics, it goes, "Once in a while you can get shown the light in the strangest of places if you look at it right." And I had so many moments with you all that were like that. Even occasionally with Charles Gross being part of the conversation. I mean, it did happen. It did happen. So I am so extraordinarily grateful for tonight, for my time with all of you, and I just am sort of overwhelmed. I get the other thing I wanted to say. I think I saw a note along the side from Bill Rubenstein, and this is just an early '80s thing, and it's worth mentioning just as a matter of cultural history. You know, a lot of this has been about my love of sports, particularly baseball and basketball, and of course, for me, that was all softball. And when I got here, I'm fresh out of the Los Angeles Lawyers League, where one year my team, the 8th Street Aces, which was this ragtag legal services team, beat Jones, Day, Rivas, and Pogue, the firm that's representing Trump lately, in the finals. I mean, even though it's 43 years ago, it's justice retroactively. But anyway, I'm looking for a way to play. And this team recruits me, and here's what the name of our team was. The team was called the Freebasers. You had to be there. You had to remember. You had to know the time. And our motto was better things for better living through chemistry. And fortunately, as far as I knew, everything about that, Tina, was a joke. Believe me, I never saw anything, and I don't have any idea what Charles is talking about, putting something under the door. So you know, the ways in which Western New England fit with who I was, who I am, and the example set for me by my senior faculty colleagues, and then my junior faculty colleagues, has just been amazing. It being here opened me to the chance to get involved with the Rosenberg Fund when Robbie established it, and I think he's going to speak in a minute or two. And it also, the community here opened my way to get to know the people with No More Guantanamos, the mass campaign against torture, and the incredibly useful progressive work that goes on in our Pioneer Valley. So I think I'm done. I'm so grateful to all of you. I wanna close a little bit solemn, just for a minute, and it is that we are in a tough time right now as a country, especially we lawyers. We got into this game because most of us took seriously the way that Jefferson, even though he didn't walk the walk, he could talk the talk. And we do have that ringing declaration in the Declaration that we hold these truths to be self-evident. All of us are created equal. And we've got a Constitution that promises, as Elena said, a more perfect union. That has always been at odds with the many anti-democratic features of our Constitution. The Electoral College, which owes itself to the 3/5 clause and the willingness of the framers to empower the slaveholding states. The fact that presidential elections are left ultimately with the state legislatures and not with the people. The profoundly anti-democratic way of composing the Senate. all of those features now, I think, are being used as a last rearguard action to hold on to minority power in the face of what is becoming a majority of the country that is comprised of people of color. I think there's a tremendous number of people who are afraid of that. And we have a contradiction, and I think it's that contradiction that is at the root of the succession crisis that we might be looking at now. Our Constitution might be in some ways obsolete, at least parts of it. And what parts of it should we hold on to? What parts of it ought we try to give up? And is it possible to move in a more democratic direction with the Constitution that we have? You know, what I'm supposed to do now is to offer an answer to that. And I wish I could, but all I've got is I got one more, I guess, line from the wonderful Robert Hunter, and you guys can probably guess what it might be. And it's, if I knew the way, I would take you home. Thank you all so much. This has been, you know, I think other than my wedding and the birth of our two girls, about the best night I've ever had, and it's on a goddamn computer. Anomalous.
And grandsons.
Thanks, Katie. Thank you for not muting me.
All right, folks, let's unmute ourselves, everyone, and let's have a round of applause for Professor Emeritus Bruce Miller.
All right. Bruce,
yes.
congratulations.
Saying hi.
Yes,
yes.
Congratulations.
Yes.
One more thing to say. I got one more thing to say. There are two people who have been very instrumental in putting this thing together tonight. And their names haven't been mentioned, and they have played no role except doing everything behind the scenes to make this happen. And it's Lauren Karasik and Harris Freeman, my wonderful friends and colleagues and political compatriots, the two people that I would go into a ditch with if we had to, in order to, I don't know, do whatever you have to do in a ditch and struggle.
Thank you to both of them.
All right, so a couple of things, and then we're going to go to Attorney Robbie Mearpool, my apologies. But Bruce, I just want to say, listening to that list of organizations you worked for, I'm thinking, man, this dude, you must be on some government list somewhere, bro. And I wish I would have known about that. I wouldn't have hung out with you as much.
Well, you know, here's the thing, Charles.
Hold on, brother.
I wrote something for Mass Lawyers Weekly shortly after 9/11. And for about a year after that, I got hassled every time I flew. And then after that, I learned from a student of mine who's in the Air Force and working in security down at Bradley, that I was on a freaking list. And he got me off of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Listen, I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised. And the other thing is, you and Barry Goldwater, brother. I'm like, wait a minute. How does that even work?
Well,
Very long time ago.
It was a long time ago, and you know what? Malcolm X had a few decent things to say, at least at some point, about Barry also.
Okay.
I'm one of the few people who liked them both at the same time. So,
well, that's an indication of one of the things, just one of the things that makes you special, man. That you can like Malcolm X and Barry Goldwater at the same time. That's a beautiful thing. That's a beautiful thing. In a way, you were kind of like the Kanye West of your time. Like,
now you're talking.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you, Charles. I hate to admit it. I hate to admit
That's right.
it. You got me on
all I'm
that.
gonna say is if I see Bruce Miller for president for 2024, I'm gonna know something's up, man.
Yeah.
I'm gonna know something's up. But thank you, Bruce. And I also want to say I'd be remiss if I didn't say this, knowing what I know about this life, is that Bruce, we all know, would not be where he is right now without the support and the love of his wife. So we do want to give Jane her propers, all right? And let's all have a round of applause for this lady, all right? Congratulations to you too, Jane. Congratulations. Congratulations. You had to put up with this man. God bless you. It's insane. Is he ever quiet? Does he ever let anyone else talk? Probably not. Professor Cohen, I see her. She's looking at me the way she used to look at me in class. She's like, what is Charles Gross talking about? Professor Cohen, yes, that's right. I just want to say hi. Okay, so I want to invite now Attorney Robbie Mearpole. He's going to share a few words. Robbie is a 1985 graduate of the School of Law and a founder of the Rosenberg Fund for Children, where he currently serves on the board of directors. All right, Attorney Mearpole.
Well, thank you, Charles. I believe that I'm unmuted.
Yes, sir.
Bruce Miller taught my constitutional law class way back in 1982. And so I want to thank you, Bruce, not only for teaching me about important constitutional questions, but also for your frenetic pacing while you talked, unlike Robert, that did a great job of keeping my neck well lubricated. And so thank you for that as well. Now, what I'm here to do tonight is to ask you to contribute to the fund that will endow the Bruce Miller Social Justice Fellowship. We need $40,000 to endow this fellowship, but we've already raised $35,000. So we only have $5,000 more to go. But my objective here tonight is to blow right past that. I applaud MassMutual's leadership support for the basic operations of the Social Justice Center and its economic justice program to protect poor people from abuse from rapacious credit card companies. MassMutual has taken a leadership role, but we all know that this fledgling organization needs to diversify the funding sources it gets in order to achieve its full potential. And there are other legal needs as well. Thousands in Springfield face eviction. The Black Lives Matter movement has highlighted the nation's structural racism, and our valley is not immune. The LGBTQ community remains vulnerable, and ICE patrols our cities, separating families and spreading terror among the undocumented. The Bruce Miller Social Justice Fellowship will fund a summer job for a law student to engage in legal work in any of these areas under the supervision of an attorney. And while this fellowship will not solve the legal underrepresentation of these communities, achieving our endowment goal tonight is an important step in that direction. Of the $35,000 we've raised so far, we've gotten a $5,000, a $3,000, three $2,000s, and three more donations of $1,500, $1,250, and $1,000. The remainder has come primarily from those who made the requested registration donation for tonight's program of $150. Now, those of us who are veterans of the 1960 civil rights movement know the phrase, you need to walk the walk, not just talk the talk. But so far tonight, I've just been talking. And tonight, our walk is to give money. So I'm going to start this walk with Ellie and my pledge of $1,000. And I challenge anyone here tonight who isn't one of those who have already made the major donations I listed above to match us. Simply contact Katie DeBeer in the chat with the amount you'd like to pledge. You can give by credit card, anonymously if you prefer, or you can even break larger gifts into annual increments. Now, many of you have already given $150, so you just need to pony up an additional $850. And I know how competitive lawyers are. I bet some of you would like to top us, as several of the early donors already have. I bet some of you don't want to let me and Ellie get away with being tonight's biggest donors. If a few of you match us or top Ellie and me, we'll make the $5,000 we need to raise now disappear more quickly than the contents of a hoppy IPA in Bruce Miller's hands. If $1,000 is too much, we'll gladly take 500 at $250. And there are still over 100 people on this call. If 20 of you or 30 of you or even 50 of you kicked in 100 or 100 extra, you can do the math. We'll raise thousands more. And any size contribution brings us closer to our goal. Finally, I urge you all, do it now. This is the moment when your support will spur our community to generate even more gifts from those who are here tonight. Now, I've used up my time, but before I'm done, I'd like to get an update. Katie, where do we stand? You've got Ellie and my pledge. What else is coming in?
Yes, thank you. We have your $1,000 pledge. We have Linda Godkin also pledged $1,000 and Scott Lesney pledged $1,500. And Robbie, this is clearly not your first rodeo. You are like a professional.
No. This is. I'm a pro. I admit it.
Oh, we got another 1,100 in from Lisa Broder McGann with $1,000 and Tatenda Chitamerere with $100. So I think $400 off of our goal.
So we're getting there. We're getting there.
President Johnson just pledged $1,000. So we have crossed the endowment threshold. You guys are.
I'm kind of waiting for some lawyer to give 1,001. Elevation of form over substance. But in any event, whatever. I'm glad this has worked out so well and that we've blown through our goal. And that you should be thankful too, because otherwise you might be hearing from me again tonight. So I want to thank you all for supporting this most righteous cause and for honoring our dear friend, Bruce Miller, with your support. Thank you.
Thanks, Robbie. Thank you, Robbie.
All right. That was nice. I would agree. That was not that man's first rodeo. He was smooth, very smooth. And I also want to give him his props on that really nice turtleneck. The man was looking good. He was very stylish, very stylish.
That actually, this is my sweater that I bought for my 60 Minutes interview with Anderson Cooper. So.
I like it, brother. With the salt and pepper, it is looking good. I give you much props on that. Okay, so that's a great cause to support, a great man whose name is attached to it, and it just brings a lot of energy, a lot of enthusiasm to the movements that all of us believe in, that we all support through the work that we do. It's an affirmation, obviously, that we're doing important work here, and I'm just very proud to be able to participate in the way that I am, and to recognize folks who have done all this tremendous work for social justice. It really means a lot to me personally. I'm going to turn it over now to the Dean. She's going to return to make some closing remarks, Dean Setti. But before I do so, I just want to say a few things on my way out the door. The Latin root for emeritus means to earn one's discharge through service. And to be a professor means someone who affirms their faith or allegiance to something. I couldn't think of two phrases that would fit better together that would describe my friend and my elder, not to embarrass you, old man, but my elder and someone who I love and admire deeply, but Bruce Miller. He has earned his honorable discharge by his service to social justice and to humanity. And he's a person who has affirmed his faith and his allegiance to something, and that is to see things differently for the better. He has always challenged himself to do that, and he challenges us to do that as well. Bruce, from all of your colleagues, your friends, your students, your grandbabies, I saw your grandbabies on here tonight, from your children, from all the folks who love you dearly, man, and just cherish the time that they've been able to spend with you and the impact you've had in their lives. We just want to say a wholehearted, full-throated, full-throttled congratulations, my friend. Congratulations, Bruce.
Congratulations, Bruce.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, so we are way over budget on time. So that's right, and that's how it should be. That's how it should be.
About an hour over.
That's right. You're at least worth a damn hour over, aren't you?
Well, I did half of it myself, for God's sake.
That's right. Okay, so now it's time for the dean. Okay, Dean Sudhasetti is going to make some remarks now. Dean?
Thank you, Charles. I
You're very welcome.
have acts to follow, and yes, we're an hour over, but anyone who knows Bruce well knew that this was coming. This is not a surprise to anyone on this call. So it is really my pleasure to offer some brief closing remarks here. First, I want to reiterate my congratulations to the Alumni Award honorees, Elena, Talia, Judge Hyland. Thank you all for the work that you do and that you continue to do. We are incredibly proud of you as a law school community. Second, I want to thank the MCs for this evening. Terrific job, both Nicole and Charles, and all of the speakers this evening. And I want to thank President Johnson. I agree with Charles. I think it's only his presence here at that Emeritus event that convinced Bruce to wear a tie. I too have never seen that before, so well done. I want to also thank, like Bruce did, my colleagues, Professor Harris Freeman and Lauren Karasik. They put in a ton of time to help make this happen, and I'm deeply grateful for them doing that. And to Katie DeBeer and her colleagues from Alumni Relations, for the Alumni Association, for all of the hard work that it took to bring this evening together. Third, I want to thank the donors to the Bruce Miller Social Justice Fellowship, now the Endowed Fellowship, and especially recognize our sponsors, the law offices of Sasson, Turnbull, Ryan, and Hoos, and Bill Newman and Dale Melcher. I think that their leadership support up front is one of the things that helped us achieve this goal tonight. So I want to thank you in particular. And finally, I guess I get to take the Dean's prerogative of spending just 1 minute, and I promise, because those of you who know me know that it's not in my nature to have it be a long set of remarks, to reflect on Bruce and his contributions to the School of Law community and on him as a colleague. I joined the faculty at the School of Law in 2006, and I actually want to take a minute to talk about a faculty meeting. The one thing that Bruce said feels like work to him, because it was a faculty meeting that told me a lot about who you were as a colleague, Bruce, and I want to tell you something about that. This faculty meeting, like the ones that were occurring back in the day, super long. For those of us who come out of private practice, almost incomprehensibly long, that this is what people could spend a Friday afternoon doing. Full of like really arcane discussions about things that were both like esoteric and lofty, but also about like where a comma went in a document, like all in one discussion, right? That's what the afternoon was packed with. And I was, you know, in this mind-numbing state. It was my first faculty meeting in 2006. But I actually remember a comment that Bruce made at that meeting. He was wearing a tie-dye t-shirt. I didn't know all the faculty members back then, but that's how I knew it was him. And he spoke about whatever topic we were discussing with such passion. And he reminded us that everything that we do as faculty, we're doing it as a community of legal educators, that we hold a precious and sacred responsibility to help our students become lawyers who would be representing clients in all types of work that they do. Whether it was working for large corporations to make a deal, in a firm, or working for an individual client who was facing a challenge that might redefine their entire life. He reminded us that we help our students become advocates to help fill unmet needs in society in the most fundamental and important ways, and that the knowledge, value, and lessons that we inculcate in our students were ones that need to last them for a career and a lifetime. I still remember hearing that, Bruce, and it was electrifying. And we know from the testimony of everyone here tonight that that's what you meant to them too, right? You meant that to all of us as colleagues, you meant that to the students and the alums and the scores of people who are still hanging in here, you know, an hour late because of how much they love you and how much they meant to you. And I remember you saying that because it reminded me of why I wanted to become a law teacher. This fire and this drive to build a community of lawyers who are thoughtful, who are ethical, compassionate, and devoted to making the world a better place. And so, Bruce, when I think of you and your legacy to the law school, I think of so many things, and you as a teacher is one of them, of course, but it's also just your passion for making the law school a better place, for 40 years of doing that, and for all of us who've had the pleasure of working with you to do that for at least some part of that time. So thank you, Bruce. I miss you as a colleague already, and I count myself lucky to still count you as a friend. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sula. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.